All right, folks, it is time for the news on January 31st, 2025. Yes, it's hard to believe, but we've already gone through 1 month of 2025, or at least we're almost through 1 month. We got still the rest of the day left and everything like that. But it looks like the expected release of a high profile male hostages is sparking excitement and anxiety in Israel. And three Israeli hostages, including a dual U.S. citizen, are set for release in Gaza on Saturday. So that's something that we're hearing in the news. And of course, people are thinking about Brexit 5 years after Britain left the EU, and the full impact of Brexit is still emerging. So that's something that people are talking about in the news as well. And it looks like India's tiger population has doubled in a decade, offering key lessons in wildlife preservation and all along those lines. And it looks like Trump news is definitely in the news as always. I was just reading recently that he has exceeded, and they're thinking about hiring some more stenographers because he is just putting out words left and right, and definitely talking to the media and doing a lot more than his predecessor. So apparently they're thinking about hiring some more stenographers because he's just putting out words left and right and all along those lines. But the GOP senators weigh the fate of Trump's more controversial cabinet pick. So we'll see what goes on in that space as senators are pressing Tulsi Gabbard, Kash Patel, and RFK Jr. in confirmation hearings. So this is something else that is talking about in the news. And Egypt fears Syria's revolutionary fever could be contagious. So they're fearing that people could be catching that contagion and all along those lines. And Trump is facing his first test in Africa amid the bloody battles over electric vehicle battery and minerals. So Rwanda does a Putin in the Congo. So it looks like the DR Congo fighting is going on, and Rwanda is illegally occupying Goma, says Therese Kakakawamba Wagner. So, Dr. DR Congo's president says the country won't be humiliated after rebels claim a takeover. And Germany's Merz breaks the far right taboo, prompting backlash from Merkel. And did they learn nothing? Auschwitz survivors to return German honor over AFD vote roll. So it looks like there's some mass protests after the far right AFD helps the CDU and the CSU in Germany. And the German parliament is expected to vote on the migration bill that could pass with far right support. And North Korean troops pulled back from frontline after heavy losses, Ukrainian officials say. So North Korean troops not seen for 3 weeks in part of Kursk Oblast, Ukraine special forces say. So North Koreans blow themselves up with grenades rather than risk capture, says a Ukraine soldiers. So that's something else we're hearing in the news as well. And U.S. is seeking to block Hezbollah ally from naming Lebanon finance minister. So designer Kim Jones exits LVMH's Dear Home brand. And it looks like the U.S. is seeking to block that Hezbollah ally from naming that finance minister, as I just said earlier, and all along those lines. So definitely a lot's going on and everything like that. Go find another sucker nation. Trump fires off threats to 10 more countries. So, bit empty, Shashi Tharoor downplays Donald Trump's tariff threats to BRICS nations. So, definitely looks like Trump is warning BRICS against the dollar move. And looks like Shashi Tharoor is responding to Trump's 100% tariff warning for India. His threat seems a bit empty, is what that particular gentleman is saying. And Japan is still trying to rescue that man stuck in the sinkhole. And Norway has seized a Russian cruise ship suspected of cutting an undersea cable. So definitely a lot's going on in that space. And Trump drops a Gaza bombshell, shattering diplomacy orthodoxy, according to the analysis from the Jerusalem Post. And they're going to do it okay. Trump insists on Jordan and Egypt taking in Gazians. So he's actually asking for them to take in the Gazians in their respective countries as well. And Bernie Sanders is the lone senator to oppose Trump's call to clean out Gaza and all along those lines. So, like I said, a lot's going on in the world, and we'll be talking about that on this particular edition of World Edition and all along those lines. But yeah, a lot is definitely taking place, and we'll be seeing what folks have to say about a number of these things. An ex-Black Hawk helicopter pilot believes three things went wrong in the plane collision, and we do know that some of the victims were folks that were in the gymnastic world and all along those lines, and boats returned to the Potomac River for DC plane crash recovery and investigation. So definitely that's something that people are talking about in the news as well. And it looks like RFK's confirmation is a coin toss. So it looks like when presented with the science on vaccine, he said needed to see. He dismissed it. And Senator also Brooks rebukes Kennedy for comments on vaccine doses for African Americans. So it looks like we'll be seeing what goes on in this hearing and all along those lines. And the DNC's outgoing chair says Democrats should have stuck with Joe Biden in 2024. So the outgoing DNC chair, Jamie Harrison, says more Democrats need to pause on being rigid. So definitely after stinging election defeats, DNC eyes rural voters as key to the 2026 midterm success. And John Thune is caught in the crossfires of Trump's trade war. So some Republicans in Congress worry about Trump's tariff tolls on their home states. And Mike Johnson doubts there will be an across-the-board tariffs as Trump trade ultimatum to Mexico and Canada looms. So we'll definitely be seeing what goes on in that space, and certain prices may be going up as well. And Trump wants to cut the federal workforce, and we'll be seeing what's going on in that space. Trump is still offering buyout to all federal workers, and some folks are wondering which one of these workers will take the buyout or not take the buyout. And Tennessee lawmakers are mirroring the Trump agenda, and they passed a bill on immigration and school vouchers. Governor Lee marks the close of a special legislative session and passes the full agenda in that space. And federal law banning handgun sales for 18 to 20-year-olds is unconstitutional and appeals court rules. So the federal appeals court strikes down the ban on handgun sales to teens. So it looks like teens will be able to get handguns after all, and all in that space. So it'll be interesting to see what goes on in that kind of world. And I'll bring in folks to see what they've got to say about a number of these stories, including senior FBI leaders ordered to retire, resign, or be fired by Monday. So definitely it looks like Trump is telling senior FBI ranks to resign or be fired. So we'll see what folks have to say about that as well. But like I said, right now I got Rick with me. I'll see if anybody else joins us in this conversation. But how's it going? It looks like a lot's going on in the world and around the world.
Yeah, too much. I only have one contact lens in, so I only have half my brain working. So it's way too much for me. But when they do the post-mortem on plane disasters, it's usually, they like to say that it's like three things. It takes, we've been flying planes for more than 100 years, and there are a lot of safeguards. And to overcome the safeguards, three things have to go wrong generally. Not always the same three things, but in this case, among the possibilities were, for some reason, that helicopter was flying 100 feet higher than it should have been.
Wow.
Another general thing is flying these helicopters, down the Potomac when there's an airport right, where jets have to cross their path. And I guess they have to fly them because of, White House down, like in case like somebody attacks DC, the copters and have to know how to get in there to fight off, terrorists or aliens or whatever the heck is trying to blow up the White House. Thing two is the pilots were probably wearing night vision goggles, which makes it hard to sometimes, because you tunnel vision, because you got, and also it makes it, you can be dazzled by light. I don't know. I'm not an expert on night but some people are speculating that another plane was brighter in their vicinity, and they were maybe focused on that plane. And the air traffic controller, who was doing the job of two people. There's supposed to be a helicopter guy and a plane guy, but one guy was doing both. And his instructions to the copter assumed the copter knew what it was looking at. Said, Pat 25, do you see the plane in front of you? And then said, Pat 25, go behind the plane in front of you. Get so you cross its path after it's already gone past. Yeah. If Pat 25 didn't know what it was looking at, maybe if you're going to do Monday morning quarterbacking, the air traffic controller should have just yelled, Pat 25, drop. I mean, but anyway, that's a lousy version of some of the current thinking about what happened.
Yeah, that makes sense. What's your take on it, Toby? Folks are still trying to figure out what's going on with this plane crash and all along those lines. So, what's your take on this? And I know a lot of people are excited about the release of folks in Gaza and all along those lines. But what's your take on that? And also, it does look like, contrary to what Nick was saying, that RFK might actually not get the endorsement because it looks like it's a coin toss, is what experts are saying now. So I guess he's been kind of putting his foot in his mouth, as he oftentimes does, and everything.
We're 11 days into this presidency. The thing that everybody said that they voted on for this man for was on economics and immigration. Everybody who voted for him has gone silent about economics as prices rise and inflation rises. There's been no words about the fact that prices are still rising and inflation is now rising. Nothing. But now people are we've had threats from France about putting troops in Greenland to protect Greenland. We've had threats from the people of Panama. We're basically making things worse in Gaza because as the people of Gaza, who have the Palestinian people and everything, they have no protections or any type of veil of protection, because even now this president is saying that he wants other countries to take the Palestinian people away from Gaza and the West Bank and give Israel Gaza and the West Bank. The reason the wars and the powder keg is still there is because of the occupations, and the people of Gaza do not have any freedoms there, which Trump is now doubling down on. Trump, now remember when Trump was in office and COVID took place, remember he fired individuals that were dealing around these infectious diseases breaking out. Well, getting into office, the FAA president was forced out by Elon Musk because Elon Musk was having issues with SpaceX and some of the debris and everything else. Trump puts a freeze on FAA hirings and all the stuff around TSA. And then we have this happen, the worst crash in a century in the US. So 11 days. This is where we are. Oh, not to mention the raids where we're having people not show up for work on farms. So now we have farmers saying that their crops are now going to rot out because they do not have enough workers there. Which is then going to hit the construction market, which is also going to hit a lot of the service industry. So again, we're 11 days in, and he's bringing white supremacists to the White House.
I got a couple fun things from yesterday.
Before you get to the fun things, I was going to go ahead. We have another invasion, which I kind of alluded to as well. So it ought to be interesting to see what happens in that, because apparently the Democratic Republic of Congo is saying that Rwanda is illegally occupying Goma, so much in the way that Ukraine says that they were occupying their country, the Russians. So it sounds like we've got another occupation going on, but this time in the African continent. So this could be the first African crisis that Trump will face, and we'll see what he does with this, since it is
he will do nothing.
Yeah,
I call it now. He will do absolutely nothing but allow that to happen.
Yeah, I'll go with that. But a fun thing is J.D. Vance said, even if none of the people involved in the plane crash is diverse, workplace diversity makes people stressed and tired. And so even if I've been in diverse workplaces. I've been in non-diverse workplaces. And I've been stressed and tired in both.
I don't know how many more signs that we need of them telling us they don't like brown people. I just don't know how many more signs. DEI was blamed. What did Trump blame the fires on? DEI. What does that have to do with the fires? Trump blamed the hurricanes and the responses on DEI. He blamed this plane crash on DEI.
Here's my
raids are all about the show me the papers is all about going after people.
Here's my lame joke of the day. Workplace DEI sank the Titanic. Iceberg is obviously a Jewish name. Goldberg, Steinberg, Iceberg. All right, here's another thing. RFK Jr. is still addicted to a drug. During his hearings yesterday, he was seen sneaking a nicotine pouch into his mouth.
I mean, you got Pete Hegseth talking about, well, when I'm working, I'm not going to drink. And now you got RFK. Hey, I will snort any place I can. I mean, this is where we are. It is truly embarrassing that I don't know how you defend anything going on with this administration. I mean,
here's another fun thing. Rogan effed over Harris. Like, she's like, yeah, we're perfectly willing to. He said, come to me, Kamala Harris, even though you're in the middle of, it's the last week of your campaign, and her people are like, okay, we're coming to you. We have this time and this time, and they're like, oh no, sorry, we can't. He's taking a personal day, and then the personal day, that day is the day he gave to have Trump on. So,
I think there are going to be a lot of things to come from this election, especially as it goes on, because of the fact we're 11 days in, and this has just been. Already, I mean, can we have an election like tomorrow? Because
we can't. We don't have that system. We're locked in until 2026.
Until 2026 and 2024 for the midterm elections and everything like that. Hey, Sasha, one of the things that I heard that was interesting and all along those lines was that apparently there is a push to hire stenographers, because the one thing that Trump does do, and he does a lot of, is talk. And apparently people can't keep track of all the things that he's saying. So apparently he's broke the record for what he did the last time he was in office. It definitely is more of a talker than Biden was and everything. So one of the articles that I had read recently was that there might be a hiring push to hire stenographers, because every time you turn around, he is talking. Sometimes he's talking and putting his foot in his mouth, but he is talking. So I was just wondering, are you going to go for the job of stenographer and come down to the United States to be one of these stenographers? Because it is a job opening that is there, because apparently he's talking so much that they think that they don't have enough people to cover everything that he says.
I don't think that Trump will go for restrictions such as stenography or any other devices, because he wants to be completely free from any obligations, from any schedules, from anything. He wants he may change his mind during the day. He can say one thing in the morning and then next thing after lunch. And he doesn't want to be restrained. He doesn't want to be bound by any, whether it's stenographed or not. And he wants to be completely free. Actually, a very interesting article I just read in the morning from Foreign Affairs, the madman theory. So there are rulers that were actually playing the role of being madmen. And because that's very intimidating, and even Niccolo Machiavelli said that sometimes it pays to be mad. So even if you are not mad, but you're very skillfully playing being mad, it may yield some positive results. But like probably in a short run, the problem is that if people now perceive you as a madman, then it doesn't make any sense to make any agreements with you or rely on you or anything, because you can change your mind and you can start screaming next day after you've signed anything. So that makes it, on one hand, also it's very interesting that it's intimidating for some and not for others. And there are a lot of others for whom it's not intimidating. And let me start with my country, Canada. Tomorrow, the tariffs are going in. First of all, I'm not so sure that it will happen. As much as Trump talks, and even yesterday he mentioned that starting February 1st, there will be tariffs. And the only thing he's still thinking about the Canadian oil, whether to have tariffs on Canadian oil or not. But other tariffs are going in, and that's sure. I mean, you already said that a week ago or a month ago. So why do you have to 5 times a day to repeat the same thing if it's going to happen anyway? So that's strange. Well, all Canada did that. They already prepared package against the United States, which will go into effect either same day as tariffs or next day. That's all. So it's already prepared, and just sitting and waiting. So in this case, a madman theory probably doesn't work that well. Now he's also threatening tariffs against Denmark, because Denmark refused to either sell or just remit Greenland to United States. So we'll see.
Here's some fun math to do. Compare the crime rates of the 1,500 pardoned January 6th rioters to undocumented immigrants' crime rates. Here's 2 more. One of the pardoned rioters just got sentenced to 10 years in prison for a wrong way on the freeway drunk driving manslaughter charge. She's going away for 10 years. She did this 2 years after January 6th. Another guy has just been charged with soliciting a minor. So that's at least 4 out of 1,500 in just the week since they've been pardoned.
Well, and there you go. But what's interesting is Trump is asking other countries, I guess, I'm kind of researching this one, to take all of our prisoners. And I'm like, whoa, I bet you there's a couple of congressmen and senators who are a little pissed at that, because they own private prison. They own a lot of the private prisons, maybe all of them. I'll have to go investigate that. But they were just petitioning a bill to get themselves more funding. Now Trump wants to send all of the people to other countries. But I disagree with that one as much as, I think not having those criminals here is wrong. I think it upends our justice system, because there have been a lot of people put into prison unjustifiably who were really innocent, and we don't need to further punish them. What we need to do is refine our prisons and make them a more reformed system, and get rid of the private prisons, because they have done nothing but undo the reform. And have any of y'all seen the bill that J.D. Vance wrote that he tried to push without a hearing? Or he supported and added a line 17. I've been watching it. Anyway, it's about dismantling DEI. And in there, he wrote a line item that said that anyone who was part of the DEI group or organization, if you worked for them, you can never hold a federal job again. It's in there. I've been watching the Oversight Committee review it, and it's quite interesting, because these are some of the people I trust when I watch the review and haven't read the bill. I'm going to go read the bill, and I'll pull it up and highlight line 17. But line 17 says that. Now, what is this doing? It's blacklisting people and establishing a framework for purging our society. And McCarthy in 1950 did this. but so did Hitler. Hitler did this. So you are allowing the leaders of our country to blacklist people. Now, this is just the beginning. Now, once they do that and you don't have DEI, guess what? You can be blacklisted and not have a job from your employer because there's no one there to protect you. It doesn't matter who you are or what you do. And, you know, like one of the oversight committee personnel pointed out, you know, we find it odd that Trump is, you know, and Vance are, you know, promoting hire people on merit. They want to blacklist people just based on having a position, not whether they did a good job or not, but they put in positions, high level positions, a wrestler who doesn't know anything about their job, a, you know, sexual harasser who doesn't know anything about his job. They put somebody into a position over our military who's never done anything like that. He was from the media. Okay. So I don't care that you were once employed by the military. It doesn't mean that you know how to run it. Okay. If I hate saying this because I'm in media, but just because you're in media doesn't mean you'll make a good spokesperson for that organization. But let's get straight here. What's happening in that bill is establishing a framework to purge humans.
I mean,
so be careful what you support because you can be blacklisted too. If you support things like this, that prejudice can be turned back on you just as quick. So be careful.
Like I said,
get to a meeting. I know Ken can take us on out and everything, but my question is, where are the MAGA supporters?
I can't hear Jatovi. Can I hear Jatovi for a second?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we're like I said earlier, we're 11 days in and everything, and this is basically Project 2025, the whitening of America, where basically DEI. The only reason he brings up DEI is because it's not your Anglo-Saxon male. He doesn't want to deal with women, doesn't want to deal with anybody with melanin in their skin. I don't know how many times we have to deal with blaming black people and women on the natural disasters to everything else. And everything you brought up with the bill, yeah, that's one thing they're trying to pass, as well as I think it's in Tennessee. There was a Tennessee, I think it's Tennessee. There was a state legislature where they were trying to pass a bill that makes it illegal for you to disagree with Trump.
Oh yeah. There's
like, what in the world is that?
Trick or treaty. Sorry, I stole that from a comedian. It's a trick or treaty going on right now. Did y'all discuss any more about the Black Hawk and the
we did
the plane collision?
Yeah.
So did you discuss it? I heard an interesting theory. They were talking about, I was piecing together this puzzle last night of people talking about it. The Black Hawk most definitely probably was being flown without pilots in it, though they could make it appear like it was with a crash like that. They could put dead bodies in it.
They know who was flying it. They know the guy, a 30-year-old guy with 1,000 hours flying that thing.
But there was more than one person on there.
Yeah, there were three, but the main pilot, I guess, was
right. And it was a priority air transport, which meant that they had a VIP on the helicopter, correct?
That's popped up on Twitter, but people are saying no, that there was no, there were no big shots on the.
Well, according to some resources, whenever you hear PAT, that means there is a VIP on there, even if it is a training flight. That the words PAT means, and I've been listening to military talk about this, but the theory is the plane had Russians on it. Right.
And Japanese and Germans as well.
Right. But and Trump is trying to negotiate with Russia to stop the war. And who knows, maybe he used that as a warning to Putin. If you keep saying no, I'm just going to keep doing this. his people had control over the military on that day. And nothing is saying that Black Hawk couldn't have been piloted by automation. So I would just take a look at, an overall picture of what could have been happening. And maybe it was his card for telling Putin, don't say no to me.
There are enough
That's
factors.
just a theory.
All right. Well, there are enough factors in the crash based on what's known for sure to account for what happened. A lot of theories that don't involve Russians, that just involve 3 guys wearing night vision goggles, which can restrict your vision, for some reason flying 100 feet higher than they should have been, in one guy doing the job of 2 in the traffic control tower. Though I do have one solution. Apparently you have to fly a bunch of helicopters along the Potomac for training in case, somebody tries to attack Washington, D.C. You have to get defensive forces, have to have people trained into getting to the heart of Washington, D.C. So one thing I could do is restrict the training flights to 2 a.m. to 5 a.m.
Or why not just send a report every time they're putting a training helicopter in and restrict their territory? But why not send a report to the airport saying we're sending training in? I mean, what is wrong with that? So that the control tower has an agenda, just like all flight patterns have an agenda. I mean, and I really find it difficult to believe that people who fly Black Hawks with goggles on, night vision goggles, they fly in war zones. You cannot tell me that they made a mistake like this. I'm sorry, but they fly in and out of war zones, dodging people. There have been other incidences to suggest otherwise, but
so in most plane crashes, you need 3 things to go wrong generally. Because there are enough safeguards that, flying is super safe. This is the biggest crash in 24 years. And that encompasses tens of millions of flights in the US. So it takes a number of things to go wrong. And you had the air traffic controller, one guy doing the job of 2, maybe given directions that were not as clear as they could have been. You've got for some reason, you got the copter 100 feet higher than it should have been in an air corridor that is dangerously overcrowded.
And it is. And I think the number one problem is lack of communication, right?
Yeah. So, the air traffic controller said, copter, do you see the plane in front of you? And then said, Pat, 25, get behind that plane. That is, turn or slow down so that the plane passes in front of you. And people are speculating whether the copter was looking at the right plane.
Well, what's interesting to me is the Secretary of Transportation was speaking, and he was asked a question about the communications between them, and he stated, diehard stated, there was communication between the tower and the airplane, and communication between the airplane and the helicopter. But when somebody asked, well, what about the helicopter and the tower? He emphasized, we are aware that he dodged it. And he emphasized, we are aware that there was communication between the plane and the copter. I don't think that there was communication to the tower and the helicopter. I don't think
it's
apparently okay. It was reported yesterday by CNN that air traffic controller was working 2 positions at the time. Mm-hmm. So that was only one of his positions, yet he was controlling yet another position because of the shortage of staff. So I wouldn't blame it on either helicopter or the airplane, the civilian airplane, but the air traffic controlling functions, if it was split for two for one man in such a critical situation. This is worrisome.
So
Well,
it-
air
you have
traffic
to-
can't control if somebody is flying out of their range and not listening. So I think that's where the big communication break was, is I think military needs to notify air traffic controllers when their copters are going into air for training, period. Or, they should notify anytime. That was a big issue we had up here in Asheville when people were just flying in and out on their own to do rescues without reporting to FEMA. So, I mean, I think communicating that you're flying something in and out of a zone, period, is important. I mean,
Also, when you're doing the job of two copters and planes, you're toggling back and forth between radio frequencies. The helicopter frequency. So,
don't believe everything that the authorities are going to be telling you. There are some geeks out there that actually own air trafficking tracking. This has actually helped law enforcement years ago with finding out what may or may not have really happened. And some of them have this tool, and they were tracking where the Black Hawk was coming from. And I'm going to verify it, but it was coming from a place that we wouldn't be very happy about. It did not rise supposedly from where the authorities say it came from. So I would be very interested in hearing the truth in this matter. I'm going to be looking at those tracking tools a little bit because, a lot of people get out there and they enjoy watching air traffic going by and listening to what's going on. It's kind of like when you listen to the police radio scanners, right? You get to listen to what's going on in your neighborhood. So there are people who do that in the air world. It's a hobby. And it's interesting to get their data versus what's being presented to us. Yes,
all right.
Rick.
One more thing about this is, close calls, plane, helicopter happened kind of on the regular around Reagan. That I just read a story today that talked to a guy who was on an aborted landing 2 days before this crash, where the plane had to pull out of a landing approach because of a helicopter too close.
So maybe there's just too many items in our airspace right now. And again, I don't think anything should go up into any airspace at all without reporting to air traffic control, period. I think drones are highly restricted near the airports to begin with, but and you have to have a special license to fly there, but it hasn't prevented people from flying there.
Well, it doesn't stop people from being idiots. During the fires,
Yep.
A drone took out one of the planes that drops the fire retardant. It didn't crash the plane, but it damaged so much the plane was out of commission.
Who was flying the drone? Oh my God.
They arrested. They figured out who the drone belonged to.
See, the problem with this area is quite dangerous for all aircrafts, and it's very cynical for U.S. military to fly helicopters for training purposes in such congested area when there is a risk of accident extremely high. So this is beneficial because it emulates quite scenario which could have happened in a real military zone or during the war or so on, and it doesn't cost you any money because you have all this incoming passenger traffic. So imagine it's not passenger traffic, it will be military traffic or anything like this, but it's there. You don't have to create it, you don't have to work at it, it's already there, free of charge, and all you have to do is send your helicopters and ask them to maneuver and so on, and once in a while accident may happen. Okay, so it's tragic, but
yeah, it's tragic. Some other things too to talk about is some of his executive orders lack a whole lot of common sense, especially when I think what people fail to understand what common sense is that when you lack morals, then you're going to lack common sense. And, you have ICE now going out and grabbing people who they shouldn't be grabbing and shipping them, deporting them. And one incident is a family from Texas. The man, born American, married a Hispanic woman from Mexico, and they just had a baby, two, actually, twins, premature. They missed the hearing that they were supposed to have for her to become a legal citizen. They have filed the paperwork, spent the money, filed the paperwork, went through whatever they were supposed to, had one more hearing, and it was scheduled, unfortunately, on the same day that she had an emergency birth with premature babies. And so they contacted the hearing board, and the hearing board said, yeah, don't worry about it. And then ICE went in and took her and her premature babies and sent them back across the border. Now, how safe is that? I mean, could they not have just investigated a little bit? I think that they're just little overeager beavers, if you ask me. Prejudiced, eager beavers.
Yep. One more. Here's a fun thing. For the 2028 Olympics in Los Angeles, there's a company who's planning on adding vertical takeoff and landing drone type air taxis to take people around. So, LA is crazy with air traffic, and now we are going to start to add. This company has already done it for Paris, and we're adding human carrying drones to Los Angeles.
Yes, we are. Kind of scary.
So, I mean, but all this is doable with, the right technology and anyway.
Well, I mean, what do you think? So, moving forward with that, what do you think we should do?
Well, the military should be restricted to low for training flights, should be around Reagan. They should do it during the times of night when traffic into and out of Reagan is at its lowest, which would be like 2 a.m. to 5 a.m. Though it's an international airport, it probably has traffic 24/7. But, there are less busy times. The technology needs to be updated. For decades, air traffic computers, the computers in the towers have been like old as hell. Now, somebody was saying that they're from the 60s. I don't know about that, but they probably do have tech in those towers that's from the 80s. And they should increase hiring. And they should look at how to use AI to make sure that everybody is getting the right heads up and warnings. So there was a gap of 12 seconds between the last time the tower talked to the helicopter and the crash. If that tower was fully staffed, somebody might have noticed that they were still on a collision course in that 12, 13 seconds and yelled at the helicopter one more time. So there's going to be a huge investigation. It'll take 2 years, and there will be recommendations that lead to improvements.
You don't think that there could be recommendations now? I mean,
yeah, I mean, but also you got a very inexperienced Secretary of Defense.
What about the Secretary of Transportation?
So I don't know about that guy. I mean, I don't know who he is.
I don't either.
I know that he's probably not a complete idiot, because if he were, we'd be hearing a ton about him the way we've heard about some of the more ridiculous nominees.
That would be interesting to know more about him. His last name's Duffy, right?
Oh, Sean Duffy. Oh, yeah.
He
was on MTV's The Real World. He's another TV guy.
Was he just appointed?
Yeah. But
he was just appointed. So we got another MTV reality show host running our transportation department. That's pretty freaking real, people.
Yeah, he might not be an idiot. We haven't heard a lot about him because, I mean, he wasn't just on TV. He's done other stuff. So here I pulled up an article about him. So he's a former reality TV star, lumberjack, and congressman from Wisconsin.
Okay, what does he know
And of
about
course, he was
transportation?
also a Fox News host.
What did he know? Oh, a Fox News host. So what did he know about transportation?
I don't know, but he was in Congress for 9 years. He defended Trump in his role on Fox News. He's married to another Fox News host.
So what I'm seeing now is Trump has somebody in control of the transportation that can tell us whatever he wants them to tell us, who can cover up anything that actually really did happen. Am I correct?
Well, I mean, I'm looking at the article. He seems to not be a douchebag, unlike some of these other nominees. He's a father of 9. You know, he might be fine. He might be okay.
He seems like a yes man to me. He could be.
Yeah, but he might also. I mean, yeah, you can. Everybody who works for Trump has to do the Trump dance, but you can also do your job with. You're not dancing for Trump 24/7. You can actually do your job when you're not kissing Trump's ass.
But this happened under his realm.
Yeah, but he's only been on the job for like 5 days.
But he could cover up easily. He's in a position where he could cover up things easily.
I would say give him the benefit of the doubt for the time being.
Yeah, I mean, we have to. We have no other choice. It's kind of scary to me because this is a lot happening. I'm almost starting to see that theory looking more and more true. This was just another. I'm going to send that to everyone and ask them, did you guys know that Sean was, part of Fox at one time? I don't see him as carrying the merits to be head of the Department of Transportation, though.
Well, I mean, all right. So, but a conservative could make the same argument about Pete Buttigieg. You know, that he was, he was in the military. He didn't have any jobs that were specifically related to that job either before being appointed. He was, Mayor Pete, mayor of what city? It's anyway.
I think a mayor makes more of a good person to run cities, and that's good experience for running cities, states, and countries, because you learn a lot and how to do a lot about everything when you're doing that. You learn about the financials, you learn about the people, you learn about how things happen, what your decisions for that city, what they cause to that city, and it helps you build and establish the skill sets for running bigger things in the future. So I think, mayor is a good background for somebody in a big leadership role, but you might be right, maybe not as Department of Transportation or something like that, but if we look at a skill set for the Department of Transportation, I would think it should be somebody who understands a little bit about what is needed to make.
But also when you're in the position of leadership, you try to have people under you who can maybe supply your missing expertise. So Sean Duffy said yesterday he'll announce a plan to reform the FAA, which is better. It's a better statement than what J.D. Vance said.
Or Trump.
Which J.D. Vance echoed Trump by saying that even if all the people, and if none of the people involved in the crash were, diversity hires, even so, being part of a workplace that has diversity hires makes everybody tired. That is just like crazy horse shit. And I don't see that coming out of this Duffy guy. He's so.
Maybe he has a little more integrity, but we shall see.
I mean, okay, look at Trump's Supreme Court appointments. They were appointed to get rid of abortion. But one of the things about, when you're thrown onto the Supreme Court, you're a little bit of a wild card. You're most, you're not supposed to be, as a judge, you're not supposed to be politically active. So one of the nice things, and sometimes not nice things, about Supreme Court justices is they can surprise you. And we've had some great justices who were appointed to be kind of conservative hacks who turned out to be better judges than we might have expected. And Amy Coney Barrett, now on abortion as a liberal, I think she's terrible, but she has been a little bit surprising on other rurulings, that she comes from like this really culty kind of Christian sect, but I don't think she's letting her religious background screw up some of her judgments. She's, I think, a better justice than she was appointed to be. And they can be the same thing with some of Trump's appointees. Yeah, they could have been appointed for hacky reasons because Trump saw them on TV, on Fox News, and they have great hair. Sean Duffy's another guy with really good hair. But he might turn out to be a decent guy.
Job qualifications 1. Without DEI, you must have good hair.
Well, I mean, we've had 3 hair presidents. We've had 3 presidents who we are, and actually I can think of 4. Harding in the 20s. He was elected because he was a handsome dude. Women had just gotten the vote, and he won a lot of lady votes. JFK, maybe the best hair of any president until you get to Reagan. Reagan, awesome hair. Clinton, really good hair. It helps to be tall and have good hair.
Have we ever had a bald president?
We've had a ton of them, but mostly in the 19th century. Though Eisenhower, did he have any hair to speak of? I don't think so, but he was like a great World War II general and a pretty good president.
Yeah, I mean, I think, we're just going to have to sit back and wait and see what all of this is going to pan out. All I can say is when you allow prejudice against some people and bad, hateful things to destroy their lives because of your prejudice, you lose the support you need when that turns on you. There won't be any support for people at all. So just be careful. As it was stated in the Oversight Committee as well, we have a bunch of policies being pushed right now that enforces 2025. So FYI, for financial reasons, unless you're earning $400,000 a year, you're going to have to work very, very hard to pay extra taxes to cover the 40% tax cut that individuals get who do earn $400,000 a year. This has been going on since 2018 when Trump pushed the initial tax law and Job Act. And so, make sure you get out there. If you want to get that tax cut, earn over $400,000 a year. This is my wealthy part of our show. The healthy part is make sure you stay healthy because you're not going to be able to afford it in this country. There's just not enough doctors anymore. And it's going to be ridiculous. Insurance, the Obamacare insurance is not what people think. It is not.
Here's a fun thing. When the U.S. built the Pentagon, it was the world's largest office building. The Pentagon, of course, is where all of America's military business is headquartered. China is building a military campus that will be 10 times the size of the Pentagon.
Yeah, I mean, have you seen, speaking of China, I just saw a beautiful video of China and what they have done for their people in villages that lack the rain that they need, and also to protect them, I guess, if they have fires that get out of control. But they've installed these huge, I don't know what you call them, rainmaker systems, and they shoot water high in the air at high volume, and it spreads across the village. And so people get rain on every once in a while from this system. I'm going to read up more on that, but what a beautiful idea for their people who probably need a little bit of extra rain every once in a while. What a great way to use technology. I just think it's beautiful. You can see the people dancing in it, and it almost looked like you could see rainbows in the water. So, but China is not as bad as I think our leaders make it to be. I would love to get Holmes Stoner on here, who has done a lot of work with China for many, many years. He loves that community. He loves that country. I'm not a big fan either way because I've never been there other than through flying. I've flown and landed there, but I think that a lot of fear is placed in us about a lot of things.
Let's ask Sasha, how nervous should we be about China over the next 10 years?
Yeah, good idea.
China itself is one thing. When it's tied up with Russia, North Korea, and Iran, it's a different thing. So when Trump now is threatening tariffs against all BRICS countries, it's a little bit worrisome because we're talking about countries with enormous populations, such as China, India, Brazil, just name three of them, and Russia and South Africa. And then Indonesia is going to join anytime, if not already. So I can't even imagine how this tariff system is going to work if that's just a threat. But you see, many countries now understand that many things what Trump talks about is nothing but a threat. It's nothing but a spectacle, and they're not taking that seriously anymore. Look at little Canada, not by size, but by population for sure. Canada said, go ahead, make my day. We already prepared all the replies to your tariffs, ready to go anytime. Do it.
Mexico is going to do the same thing, or we're going to be the Alamo sandwiched between people who hate us.
Before we run out of time, what about Russia? That's a shriveling country. Right now, it's got 160 million people. By 2050, they'll be down to 130 million people. Their economy isn't great, and they're shrinking. What happens with a country that's slowly shriveling but still has 1,700 nuclear weapons?
All those nuclear weapons will be probably not so useful after all, because if you are not providing proper maintenance, and that costs money and expertise, and I'm not sure that Russia has both or even one of those. So I would, you see, Putin was playing that bluffing game for a couple of years, and Biden was, he was buying that Russia will use nuclear weapons and so on. And now it's bluff, it's being called, and it's now Trump is bluffing himself now about what he's going to do to Russia or so on. So we'll see how that bluff will play against Russian bluff, and what's going to happen with these two bluffs together. Well, our Ukrainian show is about to start, so I have to leave.
That's right. Okay. Don't forget to watch this live, and you can do it on some of the social media sites and ask questions. Take care, everyone. We'll see you soon. And don't forget, like us on social media. We do all this for free. People join us We've been doing this for years, bringing you information from around the world, the real information from the real people. Take care.